Let me stream. Oh, surprise. Maybe it's getting better. I don't know. But hello and welcome to a brand new episode of The List Show. This is volume 13, 21st Century Films. This is the first year that's the top 25 movies of 2000. So the first year of the new century, 2000, was 25 years ago, believe it or not. Reason why I chose today to do this one is because tomorrow will be the 25th anniversary of my wife and I's first date. So I figured a nice little connection. Plus, the Ravens don't play until 4:25 p.m. today, so I figured I can get this out of the way, and I will be done for the rest of the day. But yep, this is the list show where I list just usually films. I do some other stuff as well. This one is, as I said, top 25 films of 2000. I also have two honorable mentions. First and foremost, this is my list. You can disagree with it. That's your right, because we still live in a democracy, believe it or not, despite everything that's happening. You can believe that. And if you disagree with me on stuff, that's fine. Say stuff in the comments if you like. But my only thing to say is that, don't be a dick about it, because this is my list. If you have a different list, you do show and do your list. Do a response video. Say, he's a moron, doesn't know what he's talking about. This is my personal film list. I'm not a film junkie. I'm not a film nerd or a film, what do you call those hyper film people who believe that everything Paul Thomas Anderson does is fantastic, and just, that the regular people should not, don't know anything about film, so they are surprised when films that affect regular people make more money than the artsy ones that they're expecting, because they are film snobs. They're not going to agree with my list at all. I know that for sure. But this is my list again. If you disagree with me, that's fine. It's your right, but don't be a dick about it. And if you want to respond to it, absolutely respond to it. Give your top picks, but don't be a dick and says you're an idiot. That movie shouldn't be number one. It should be this. It's my opinion. That your opinion is valid as well, but this is my opinion, so you can just fuck right off, and I'll give a rat's ass what you think about my list. Even if you think it's a good one, I'm glad you like it. But in the end, I'm doing this for myself. It's films that I like, and this is, in my opinion, what it is. Now, interesting thing about 2000 was, and it's true, I was aimless since leaving college in 95. Still living at home. Didn't know exactly what was working, not anymore, but I worked at a bagel shop where my hours were 3:30 to 10:30 in the morning. And then in 2000, I was working at Rainforest Cafe. They had just opened up in 1999, and I was also doing on the weekends, working for the radio station. Sometimes at night also I do movie premieres. A handful of the movies on my list are movie premieres I did for the radio station. But a funny thing happened on September 29th, 2000, when I went on a date with my wife for the first time. We watched a movie, actually. We watched a pirate movie, which is her favorite movie. And from that point on, I didn't watch the main movies because I was occupied with my wife doing my boyfriendy things at the time and doing stuff, and then and spend my weekends with her. And then we actually saw a number of these movies also in the movie theater together as well. So that's pretty interesting as well. So I actually saw a good number of these in the movie theater. I saw a bunch of these also on DVD after the fact, but they are still considered my favorite. And some of these I've only seen once, so I don't really recall much about the films, but I do remember liking them as much. So after this, I really didn't go to the movies all that often because I was busy. And then I moved in with my wife in 2001. And then we got married in 2003, which actually our anniversary is next Saturday. And then we had kids. And here we are. I've been getting a little bit back more into movies now that my kids are older, and I get a little bit of time like that. So here we go. So here's my list of the top 25 films of 2000. First up, honorable mention is Leprechaun in the Hood. It's not a good movie. It really isn't, but it's such a bizarre, idea that I had to put it as an honorable mention, and it did come out. It's up there with Leprechaun in Space as well. It's just, this is what you need to do when you want to do these sort of horror franchises that use like a mythical being. I think it's hilarious. Leprechaun the Hood is freaking hilarious, and as I said, it's not very good, but it is hilarious, and I was entertained by it, and that's why it's honorable mention, not on my top 25 list. Down to You almost was number 25, but my number 25 just scraped by here. I'm not a big fan of my number 25 either, but it's a little bit better than Down to You. I was always a Freddie Prinze Jr. guy. I liked his work in She's All That, and also the fact that he bagged Sarah Michelle Gellar. You'd think because she was my crush, I was pissed about it, but he's actually kind of a decent guy, and they've been married about as long as my wife and I have, and they have 2 kids just like my wife and I have, and I keep hoping and praying that my son and her daughter get together and get married and we become in-laws, because Charlotte just turned 16. Noah turned 16 a month before she did, so he's a month older than her. And then he was able to go to school earlier than her, so he's 1 grade ahead of her. But they're still right around the same age, so that's why I'm thinking they should get together. But that's not my decision. That's just what I would like to see. But he made a movie with Julia Stiles, actually, from 10 Things I Hate About You. And Henry Winkler actually played his dad, called Down to You. It's just basically about, and it's kind of a weird movie also. It's the basic premise is a college guy meets a college girl. They get together and they have fun and stuff like that. His dad is a celebrity chef, and he has these weird friends that are like porn stars or wannabe porn stars making porn films. And then there was a whole pregnancy scare in there, and then they break up together. And then Freddie Prinze Jr. attempts suicide by drinking Drano and envisions a conversation with the spider. And then his dad is able to save his life, and then he's able to clean himself up. And then at the end, there's a possibility that the 2 of them could get back together. It's not stated, but it's just the one little hand gesture she does where she rubs his stomach like this means she wants to have sex with him. So I haven't seen it in a while. I saw it in the movie theaters because I like Julia Stiles. I like Freddie, obviously. And having Henry Winkler there was great also. But it's a really kind of bizarre film. And you could almost say it's a pseudo sequel to She's All That, really. I mean, but Freddie Prinze doesn't play the annoying sort of type of character he was in She's All That. I mean, not annoying. He was just a pompous ass who got brought down a notch, which is why the movie's so good. Down to You is just, what if he went to college and stuff like that. So it's definitely different. And just the whole porn friend side story, I don't know, it's just kind of weird. And then the attempting suicide sort of thing, which is weird. But it's still decent, but that's kind of why it's an honorable mention also. Then we get to the list. Number 25 is Scary Movie, the original one. Keenan Ivory Wayans is coming back with a new Scary Movie coming out next year. And the first one was a parody of Scream, obviously, but also I Know What You Did Last Summer and The Ring, I think. No, The Ring was a different time. No, it was I Know What You Did Last Summer, Scream, and a few other horror tropes as well. But they had a real emphasis on gay humor, sex humor, drug humor. And it has its moments. And even the ending parodies Usual Suspects, which is really funny. And it has an interesting cast in it. But in the end, it's just sort of like, it's okay, and it just barely made the top number 25. I'm sure there are other movies out there that might have, if I would have seen them, I might have ranked higher than that. But again, that's the other thing I forgot to mention on my list. These are films I've seen. There are a bunch of movies I haven't seen. And as I said, I'm not a connoisseur, so I only watch a certain amount of movies every year. So, and then I go from all ranges. So this year, I didn't really watch a lot of the 2000 movies. A lot of them didn't interest me at the time. And some of them I'm looking back when I was making this list, like, maybe I kind of should have watched this one. Maybe it would have taken its place. But Scary Movie number 25. Yeah, it has its moments, but it's also, as I said, it has a lot of sexual humor, a lot of making fun of gay people, which I'm not a big fan of. Some drug stuff, marijuana particularly. But some of the comedy's funny, and it's funny that they named it Scary Movie because that was what Scream was originally supposed to be called. So when they changed it to Scream, they co-opted the title, and then they made a whole bunch of sequels. The second one was Keenen Ivory Wayans' group. I didn't see that one because I really had no desire after not really enjoying the first one. And the third, fourth, and the fifth one, I think, was done by the Zucker brothers, I think, or at least one of them. So the guys that did Airplane, so they did more of their style type of humor with Leslie Nielsen popping up in those, and Charlie Sheen, and those I like those a little bit better because those are a little bit more my speed when it comes to the type of humor that I enjoy. Am I going to see the new Scary Movie when it comes out? No, probably not. But nothing against them. Go for it. I hope it makes a ton of money because we do need more, different voices in filmmaking, even though it's goofy stuff like that. But there we go. Number 25, Scary Movie. Number 24 is, I believe, John Waters' last film he's made. So it's been almost 25 years since he made another film. I can't think of another one between now and then that he's made. This one's called Cecil B. Demented. As usual, filmed in Baltimore. Actually, this filmed a sequence at the Senator Theater, which was at the time right down the street from my house. So that was kind of cool. And it's kind of an interesting take. It's about a bunch of film, not Nazis, but film types who are guerrilla film types who kidnap a big star played by Melanie Griffith at a premiere at the Senator Theater and force her to do things, rob banks and do stuff with them to fund their movies and stuff like that, and be in their movies as well. And she slowly becomes friendly with her kidnappers. It's kind of making fun of, I forget who it was, one of the main actors that he's worked with had sort of a similar situation happen to her. So he wanted to make a movie about that. So Cecil B. Demented as number 24. Number 23 is Remember the Titans, one of the best football movies out there. It probably should be higher up on my list. But again, I've only seen it once, and it's a good film. Denzel Washington is in it. And it's about a team that a football team, a high school football team that gets segregated, or not gets desegregated. So black players come into play against white players in the South, and they're going up against all white schools, and there's racial aspects to it. And then Denzel Washington has a different coaching style than the white coach, played by, I forget, great Will Patton, I think, is the other coach, and he's a good character actor, and he learns, and they learn respect for each other. At the time, the black and white people, the players, are suspicious of each other, but they bond and become a team unit, as do Will Patton and Denzel Washington, and they're different. They mesh their different coaching styles, and they go out there and they show them what's for. So it's a typical sort of football film. One of two on this list, actually. That's pretty decent. So Remember the Titans is definitely a great film, and probably should be higher up, but I probably should have put it at 21. Now I think about it. But you know what? This is my list. It's fluid list. So next year, if I do another one, or in 5 years when I do 30-year anniversary of 2000, I might switch it around a little bit. But for now, it's at number 23. Again, probably not where it should be, and I will admit that. But it's not going to be number 22 because Best in Show is one of the best improv movies out there, with Christopher Guest's improv groups, Catherine O'Hara, Eugene Levy, Christopher Guest, I think Michael McKeon's in it, Jennifer Coolidge, Catherine O'Hara, and it's a pseudo faux documentary about a dog show, and it follows a group of people, trainers, who are trying to win their dog show, and shows the obsessiveness that owners have to their show dogs and their show animals. Very clever, very well done, very well written. It's really all improv, to be honest. Fred Willard, he's the other one in there also. That's the name I was trying to think of. So some really good casting in it. Great sort of film. Again, probably should be higher up also, but I like the movie a lot. It's one I should go back and revisit now that I have a little more free time. So yeah, thinking back at the last two, I probably should have made 21, but 21 is The Perfect Storm. At the time, this is the first one of these where I did a movie premiere for the radio station, and it came out July 4th weekend. And everyone was touting that The Patriot, Mel Gibson's directed film. No, it wasn't. It was Roland Emmerich. I'm sorry, Roland Emmerich, the guy who did ID4, directed Mel Gibson and Heath Ledger and Jason Isaacs. It's a great cast in a film called The Patriot, set during the American Revolution. And it's basically Braveheart, but during the American Revolution, to be honest. And at the time in 2000, I was kind of sick of Mel Gibson already. I kind of wanted the underdog to win. Roland Emmerich always seemed to be winning, and I was still pissed at Roland Emmerich for the lousy Godzilla movie that he produced. So I was kind of hoping that it failed. And when The Perfect Storm was announced, based on the bestseller, based on a true story, best-selling novel, I was hoping that The Perfect Storm would outlast The Patriot, because everybody was expecting The Patriot to wipe the floor with The Perfect Storm. Perfect Storm ended up winning the box office July 4th weekend, which is, again, weird because it was an American Revolution movie. You think it would have done better, but again, it was overly violent. It was Mel Gibson might have started having some issues and started falling away from being good. And it was a long ass film. It's like 2.5 hours long or something like that. So it was crazy. Perfect Storm was the perfect sort of summer film. Mark Wahlberg, George Clooney, who was just really starting to spread his wings a little bit. Still wasn't the huge George Clooney that he was, but this film helped him on his way a little bit with that. And it's based on a true story that was a huge, huge best-selling novel. I mean, freaking huge best-selling novel about a fishing team who was up north somewhere, and they are struggling, and their town is falling apart because everything subsists on their fishing, and they're losing their jobs and losing their money and stuff like that. So Wahlberg and Clooney decide to go out boating, and they start off slow, but then they start going further and further away from land. They start getting, they start getting the fish that they want. And I was like, this is pretty good. Let's just keep going. We're making a ton. We can make up all of our stuff if we just keep going. However, they were unaware, because remember, still 2000. I think this actually took the stories based in the 90s. So they're still kind of, the internet was still not quite, and even in 2000, the internet wasn't quite over there. So I don't think they were aware that there was, and again, this is a true story, that there was a perfect storm forming in the Atlantic Ocean, and they were heading right for it. The storm where it was just everything, just the perfect storm. Just I can't really describe it. It's just well formed, lots of wind, lots of rain, lots of stuff, and it was out in the middle of the Atlantic, and they kept going, and they get caught in the perfect storm, and they have to try to survive. And it has kind of a downer ending, but it's based on a true story. So it was a huge hit. So the movie was pretty decent. Wolfgang Peterson directed it. So pretty decent, but I think Best in Show and Remember the Titans are both a little bit better than that. So maybe next time I'll move it up here. Number 20 is The Legend of Bagger Vance. I think I did a movie premiere with this one, but I know this is one movie that I went to see with my wife on one of our dates when we started dating. Will Smith, Matt Damon. It's a turn of the century golf movie. And Will Smith got into a little bit of trouble with it because it was the mystical Negro sort of trope that was going on there, where there's a black guy who comes in and helps a white person. He's sort of like a mystical sort of being. He becomes the caddy for Bagger Vance, who was played by Matt Damon, who again was also early on in his career too. And it was I think that's based. I don't know if it's based on a true story, but it helped. It was a golf movie about this guy who needed to win, wasn't very good at golf, and then he got this mystical caddy comes in, played by Will Smith, who helps him win all kinds of stuff and win the girl and stuff like that. It was a decent movie. It was a good date movie. I saw it with my wife, and to be honest, I haven't seen it since. So maybe I saw it once in the 3 or 4 years where we moved here and got married, stuff like that. But it really didn't resonate with me, but it definitely beautifully shot from what I recall. And even though it seems like a trope, the mystical Negro helping the white man is always an interesting trope as well. And I kind of I thought it was kind of a neat thing to have Will Smith playing against type, playing sort of, instead of playing like the wise ass sort of guy, playing the wise in the head gentleman. Number 19 was a movie that got a ton of Oscar love. Might have even won the Oscar. No, I think another movie beat that, but it got a ton of Oscar love. Did win some Academy Awards, as it should. It was Steve Soderbergh's Traffic, a ensemble cast. I think Benicio del Toro, Michael Douglas, Topher Grace. I'm probably missing a ton of people in it, but it basically, and what's interesting, what made this film great and why it deserved to win the best Oscar for cinematography is because there's 3 different storylines going on, and it's about, I think it's also kind of based on true stories. Also, it's about the drug war going on at this time in the beginning of the 21st century, end of the 20th century, the drug war that was happening, everywhere. And it follows 3 different storylines. I think Michael Douglas is the drug czar, put in place by the president of the United States to investigate and stop drugs. And he is the type of guy that is going all out to try to stop the drugs. But then we learn that his daughter is dating somebody who's a drug addict, played by Topher Grace, and they get hooked on drugs. So she becomes a drug addict. And then we also take a look, I think, at the Mexican side of it, where the police and the Mexican police and federales and stuff like that are trying to stop it on their side. And then I think there's a story where it looks at the drug dealers themselves. I'm trying to remember, but there are at least 3 distinct stories. And what made it really cool and why it won Best Cinematography, as it should, is because Soderbergh changed the tint for every story, so you know what story you were following. So when Michael Douglas's story was up, there was a big blue sort of haze. The way he shot it was through like a blue lens sort of thing. So it looked normal, but there was like a lot of blue just everywhere. And then the Mexican side with Benicio del Toro was, because it was Mexico, it was a bright white yellow, showing sunshine, sort of, because Mexico is, the sunshiny aspect of it. And it had that sort of really bright, almost discolored, bleeding out the colors. The colors aren't, you can hardly barely see them. There's just straight up whites and tans and stuff like that to portray the Mexican land. And then I think the third one was like a darker, maybe a black or green or some weird. And so each color was a different storyline. So you knew when they were switching between stories, you would see the filter. You're like, okay, this is the story we're following up, because there was a lot of people involved with it. And I kind of want to see who's in it, because it's one of those films that it was good to watch. I saw it in the movie theater, but it was also one that it's probably not one you're going to really want to watch over and over again. It's also a remake from a movie in England. So let's see, we have Mexico storyline, the Wakefield storyline, and the Ayala DEA storyline. Those are the 3 storylines. Benicio del Toro, Michael Douglas, Amy Irving, Erica Christensen, Topher Grace, T.W. Moffat, James Brolin, Albert Finney, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Dennis Quaid, Clifton Collins Jr., Don Cheadle, Louis Guzman, Miguel Ferrer, Peter Riegert, Benjamin Bratt, Viola Davis, John Slattery, James Pickens Jr., Salma Hayek, Eddie Velez, Rena Sofer, Stacey Travis, Margaret Travolta, and then they had a whole bunch of actual governors and senators who portrayed themselves popped up in it as well. So so that's what it was, something like that. So definitely worth a watch just to check it out. But it's not a huge thing. It's again one of these movies that it's nice to watch once, but it's not something that I'm going to seek out and go, you know what, I want to watch a movie about the drug trade. So it's number 19. Number 18 is actually the biggest jumper in my list because I had done an original top 25 list a while back when at the beginning of this year. Actually, I laid out because I knew I was going to do one of these down the line. I picked this time, as I told you earlier, why I picked this. And as I said, I had Remember the Titans. I had Best in Show up further, but I backed them down for some reason. I can't remember why, but I did for some reason. Number 18, Bedazzled, was up there at like number 25, 24, and I moved it to 18 because I had mixed feelings about it, but I really hadn't thought about it too much. And then I started seeing people talking about how great it was. So I sort of rewatched trailer clips that were posted via Reels because, again, it's one of those movies I watched once and that was it. It's Brendan Fraser and, Liz, was Hugh Grant's girlfriend at the time, Elizabeth Hurley, were the two main actors in that. And it was like the last really good Brendan Fraser film before he got blacklisted by the Hollywood Foreign Critics Society. For I still don't quite understand what happened with that. But it was directed by Harold Ramis. It's a remake of an English film that starred Dudley Moore. And basically, Brendan Fraser plays an everyman sort of guy who his life sucks. The girl that he is in love with doesn't like him, doesn't even give him the time of day. He just seems like he's a total failure. So he meets a gorgeous woman in the bar played by Elizabeth Hurley. And we learn and then she's flirting with him and he's flirting back with him. And then she makes him a deal. And we learn later on that she's the devil. And he just sold his soul for like 7 wishes or something like that. And so Brendan Fraser, makes these wishes and does stuff that makes him want to look good for the girl that he's in love with. But everyone ends terribly for him. So one is like, I want to be more sporty, or I want to be more emotional. I want to be more, stuff like that, just by going what she learned. And so eventually I think he got busted and thrown in jail, and he meets the mystical Negro trope again with a guy who's in jail. It's one of the best scenes in the movie, actually, who's actually intimates that he's an angel. It's like, you can't sell your soul. And Brendan Fraser is able to, I think he has one last wish, I think, and he outwits the devil. It's one of those things, I should probably rewatch it, but I remember Brendan Fraser having to play like every wish he had. He was different. Like when he wanted to be more sporty, he grew like 5 inches, and then he had this like really dirty blonde hair and this just ugly sort of and buck teeth and ugly looking. He was just this punk ass bitch. But I think the theory was he had a small dick, so it didn't quite work out. And then the emotional one, he had like pimples and he was fat and he was like crying all the time. And he sold it every single time when he was in a different persona for each of the wishes that he asked for. So it's a pretty decent film. It's one of those I probably need to rewatch again. I mean, it is Harold Ramis. It is Brendan Fraser, right at the height of his stuff. Elizabeth Hurley was still looked pretty hot at that time. And she still looks pretty hot now. But she was really at the height of her hotness then as well. And, you see the shot of her in her bikini with a snake wrapped around her is kind of a thing that does it for some people. But all in all, that was kind of an interesting aspect of stuff. So it's definitely worth it. I'm glad I kind of moved to number 18. Again, unlike Traffic, it's a film that I'm actually actively thinking maybe I should rewatch it. I think it's back there. I got probably one of my movies back there. I know I own it, so it's just a matter of just pulling it out and watching it. So I think it's one that maybe I might check out again sometime. Number 17 is Final Destination, the first one, which was written and written by two writers of the X-Files who actually also took over Millennium season 2 and turned it into one of the best seasons of television ever. And one of the writers directed it. I forget who it was. The two of them had also worked together on Space Above and Beyond, which was another great show. And also they did I just had it in my head. They did the One, which is a great future kung fu karate sort of movie with Jet Li playing a guy who travels through alternate dimensions and kills his other selves because he wants to be most powerful. And then he comes to our present day one and meets up with the other Jet Li, who is the good guy. And so Jet Li versus Jet Li in karate battles and stuff like that. And I think Carla Gugino is his wife. So that was a good film. So I forget the names of the writers, but they were the ones that came up with Final Destination. They were writers for the X-Files. They're the ones that wrote the Notorious Home episode also. So one of these, great writers. So they were the ones that came with Final Destination. Now, what's great about Final Destination, the first one, is the fact that it's a horror film, but the slasher, and it's supposed to be kind of a slasher film because, again, remember, right around this time, starting in 96, 97 is when, 96, I think, is when Scream dropped. And then from 96 to now, the 4-year period, there was a lot of emphasis on teen movies, particularly horror films. I know what you did last summer, Urban Legend, Disturbing Behavior, stuff like that. And they focused on that stuff. So it was still kind of lingering a little bit, but it started to die off a little bit in the late 90s. But this one came back and sort of gave it a little bit of an oomph because it was something they'd never seen before. A horror film that the slasher, the whoever that is hunting down the survivors, you can't see because it's death. And it's such a great premise, too. Somehow, a guy has a premonition that the airplane he and his friends are in, his classmates in, is going to explode after liftoff, and he can't get it out of his mind. So he freaks the fuck out. His girlfriend and the bully and his girlfriend are trying to calm him down. They all get kicked out of the plane, and he goes back, and as they're watching the plane take off, it explodes on impact. So they realize they could have died, but now they were alive. But then they learn from Tony Todd, and it's one way he can is that they're being stalked now by death because they were supposed to die in that airplane. And when you cheat death, he doesn't take that very kindly. So he starts hunting them down by having weird accidents happen to the people, the survivors, but it also affects other people around them as well. And they continue to sort of evade the main four tend to be evading the death, and it moves on to the next. It's such a great idea for a film, and it was the first one, and it's such a great idea for a film that it is now a franchise. They've done 5 or 6 of them so far, and this is the first one, and it's a brilliant one. What the hell's the actor's name who did Idle Hands and was Casper? It was in Casper. Well, he was the human form of Casper. Fuck, because I like this guy too. Devon Sawa, that's what it was. Yep. So, I remembered before I checked it out. Yeah. So Devon Sawa is the main star in this one, and it's good. It's good. Number 16 is another film I probably need to check out again. It's one I saw once. I think I saw it in the movie theater, and it's another great premise. Kind of based on a true story, but not really. And you have Willem Dafoe and John Malkovich in it. You can't, I think it's John Malkovich. Yeah, it's John Malkovich and Willem Dafoe, right? Let me see. And not the other guy. Willem Dafoe, John Malkovich, Carrie Elways, Udo Kier, Eddie Izzard. Yeah, those are that. That's that was right. It's a great premise. So The film is number 17, or not, number 16 is Shadow of the Vampire. And the premise is during the making of the original Nosferatu, which is in the 1920s, I think. This is the film shows the making of the film Nosferatu, the first ever vampire film. And it's actually the one I think that influenced Bram Stoker, maybe? No, it wasn't. They were trying to make a Bram Stoker Dracula film, but they couldn't get the rights, so they made something similar and called it Nosferatu. And Murnau was the actor who played it, and he did such a creepy performance of it that the makeup was outstanding. And it's a black and white film, and it's scary and it's spooky, and it was the original, kind of like the original vampire film, because they hadn't made a Bram Stoker's Dracula film yet. So this is like 1920s, 19 teens, something like that, when film was still kind of silent filmy and was doing stuff. So they show the making of the film, and John Malkovich plays the director of the movie. And so it follows the making of the film and the trials and tribulations they had to deal with it. But here's where they make the story a little bit different, or is it? In the role of Nosferatu in this movie, they cast a real vampire played by Willem Dafoe. So they found a real vampire. They convinced him to do this movie, and they had to keep an eye on him to make sure he wasn't killing people because he was a vampire. Again, it's the type of film that I need to see again because the stuff is hazy, but it's such a great idea and a great premise. And with Halloween, spooky season coming up on Wednesday with October 1st, it might be a good time for a revisit on that one. So number 16 is Shadow of the Vampire. Number 15, we have The Gift, which is one I also saw in the movie theater. That was at the Senator. I remember that. And Sam Raimi directed it. It has Cate Blanchett, Keanu Reeves, Katie Holmes, Greg Kinnear, and I can't think of the guy who played Phoebe's half brother. I forget his name. He was also in That Thing You Do, and he was just in a bunch of other side film stuff like that. And it's a gothic southern film. And I've talked about it before because Keanu Reeves goes way against type, playing an abusive asshole. I mean, he's one of the meanest, most abusive, most evil people you're ever going to see. And the premise has Cate Blanchett is a psychic medium, so she can talk to dead people, or she can talk to dead people, or she can see visions and stuff like that if stuff's going to happen. But she can't utilize it in the South, and she's poor, and she's having a rough time trying to stay above water, and she's helping, people trying to move on with their lives and, help them get over stuff. And there's like just a whole bunch of just gothic stereotype people down there that she has to run into. And we learn early on in the film that Katie Holmes, a ingenue who's married to the abusive Keanu Reeves, has been found murdered. And so the immediate belief is that Keanu Reeves is the one that killed her. So they go and they arrest him, but he has a solid alibi. So Cate Blanchett is sort of called in to try to figure out the murder. And there's one sequence early on that it was a jump scare, but it wasn't a person jumping out. It was a sound cue that scared the living shit out of me. And also I remember watching it in the center, and it was cold in there. I guess it was either fall, the heat was off or whatever. I might have been the only one in there watching it. And the first scene, Sam Raimi directed the shit out of this. It was fantastic directing by him. Is just in the swampy area, and it's dark and dreary, and I said Southern Gothic sort of thing. And then I think it's when the sound cue hit. So it was all together, just sort of really got in there. And then Keanu Reeves, just his character is just, unlikable. Even once we learn he has an alibi and is probably not the murderer, he's just so unlikable. You're like, why couldn't he be the murderer? I know it's obvious, but it isn't. He isn't in the end. I'm not going to spoil it who it is. But this is a very interesting film. It is Sam Raimi, so it fits perfectly. If you're looking for a good Southern Gothic film, this is a good one. Cate Blanchett does a really good job. As I said, Keanu Reeves has a completely different personality that you've never seen before, because you always see him as this light, almost like Jesus-like sort of person who believes in philosophy and love and is very soft-spoken, stuff like that. He is an abusive motherfucker in this movie, and it's a great acting from him. And this is after The Matrix made him huge. Matrix came out in 1999, so this is one of 2 Keanu Reeves films on this list. So he had a hell of a good 2000. And for those perverts who kind of like that, it's the only time you get to see Katie Holmes do a nude scene. So you do get to see Katie Holmes nude in the film. So take that with what you will. So The Gift is number 15. That's another definite one I should probably check out during spooky season. That's another good one. Number 14 sort of caught me by surprise. You know how Hollywood is stupid. And when somebody comes up with an idea, there's usually what they call a twin idea that comes out of it. So like 2 movies, like a good example is 97, I think, was Dante's Peak and Volcano, both films about volcanoes. And they were different. Dante's Peak was more scientific. Volcano was more action-oriented. Deep Impact and Armageddon. Deep Impact was more scientific and spiritual. Armageddon was a piece of shit action film, which is one of the worst movies ever made. I hate it, but it was both about an asteroid coming to hit the Earth. What's another good example of a twin movie? The Wyatt Earp movies. You had Tombstone, which is a classic, and then Kevin Costner's 3-hour epic directed by Lawrence Kasdan about the life of Wyatt Earp came out the same year as well. So you have sort of these sort of twin idea movies. Well, in 2000, there was another twin movie idea. This one was about humans on Mars. And the first one, Mission to Mars, which is not on my list because I did not like it that much. Only for Jerry O'Connell, that's besides the point. It's Gary Sinise, he's good in it, but just the film is more of the scientific sort of film, and came out before Red Planet, which is number 14. Red Planet is the action film, but there's a little bit more going on. It has the better cast. You've got Val Kilmer, you've got Carrie-Anne Moss, you've got Tom Sizemore, you got Benjamin Bratt, and it's a really good premise where they've been trying to people have visited Mars before, so they weren't the first people to visit Mars, and they've been trying to turn Mars into a livable planet. So they've tried seeding and stuff like that, and it's just not working. So they're going down to try to figure out, I think there's some weird anomalies coming from there, and so they want to go down to see what's going on. So Carrie-Anne Moss stays up in the orbiter while all the other guys go down in the lander. But something happens and the lander crashes, and there's really no way for them to get back up there. And there's tension and stuff like that. And eventually they also realize that they have these robotic dog things that are the ones that go out and survey the area because they can move quicker and stuff like that. They've got like an AI component to it. Well, during this crash, their dog sort of got a little bit of screw loose and becomes aggressive and disappears. So the remaining people who survive discover that there is life now on Mars. It's these weird bug-like creatures, and it is turned Mars into breathable. So they thought they had no other choice but to commit suicide. So they all take their helmets off at the same time and realize they're breathing oxygen because these bugs and because their seeding has worked. So they're trying to figure out stuff, but then, these bugs are aggressive and start attacking them. The dog is stalking them as well and is killing them also. So it's just kind of this really great sort of action film, great sort of Val Kilmer film. He passed away this year, and I'm reading his memoir right now. It's really, really good so far. And it's a very fun, entertaining film. I didn't see either of them in the movie theaters. Saw them after. At the time, I had no real desire to watch either of them. But then I'm so glad that I sat down. I watched Red Planet. I enjoyed it immensely. I loved it. I've watched it a few times. I've only watched Mission to Mars once. But Red Planet is brilliant, and that's why it's number 14. And it's a great sort of action sort of film, just sort of a like hour 45-minute long movie. Nothing more than just sort of a time killer. It's not like the greatest film of all time. There's not like meaning behind it. It's a fun film to watch. People trying to survive on Mars, being stalked by an AI controlled dog creature and these insects. Number 13 is a film that you probably wouldn't expect me to have this high on the list, but actually it is entertaining. It is a Disney film. And it is the film that helped get The Sixth Sense off the ground. Now, Sixth Sense came out before this film, but it led to Bruce Willis taking on The Sixth Sense and making the great film it was in 1999. This film is The Kid, and it's got a great premise. It's a rated PG movie, and it's kind of a genre sort of thing also. There's other movies that have similar beats to it. Basically, the premise is Bruce Willis is a hard trucking businessman. He treats his assistant, played by Lily Tomlin, terribly. The woman he's been dating, he kind of treats badly also. It's just whenever his needs need to be met, he goes to her, and she tries to get him to open up more, but he refuses to. He has a bad relationship with his dad, stuff like that. His mother had passed away because she was sick. And so he's just worked really, really hard to get to where he is. Now, on his birthday, he receives a visitor as a young boy. And he recognizes him almost instantly as his younger self. Somehow his younger self, played by Spencer Breslin, I believe, made his way to present day from the past. He traveled to the future and is there interacting with Bruce Willis. Everybody can see him also, so it's not like it's a ghost thing. Lily Tomlin can see him. His girlfriend can see him and stuff like that. And Bruce Willis is trying to figure out a way to get him back to his time, and he's not supposed to be here. But he's there for a specific reason, almost a reverse sort of Christmas Carol, sort of saying, seeing what his future is, and says this future sucks. We need to change it. And tries to convince Bruce Willis to change his future. And eventually, he gets to liking the boy and begins to sort of like what's happening. And then they discover a way to take him back to his time. So Bruce Willis has to go with him back to the past to make sure he gets there. So they go back to the past. They discover they have one more thing they have to do in order for the timeline to set itself properly. And I'm not going to spoil it for you, but it's a fun little film. I mean, it's unexpected. No one expected much of it. It's a really neat idea, and they do a really, really good job of doing it. And plus, he basically doesn't really keep it a secret. This is me from the past. Don't know how it happened. So here I am, and it helps him learn to rediscover who he was. It's a fun little film. Just a sweet little film. That's why I have it number 13. Number 12, I saw this movie with my wife. It was her favorite movie, I think, of 2000. I think I might have done a premiere of it as well. Finding Forrester, Sean Connery, Anna Paquin. Basically, Sean Connery plays a reclusive author who wrote what is considered to be one of the greatest books of all time, sort of similar to the writer of Catcher in the Rye. But he's in seclusion, and a black student who is a prodigy in writing gets accepted to a high-end school where he gets treated badly by his teacher, F. Murray Abraham, who is a failed writer. Because he sees that this kid is a better writer than he is, and he can't believe that. It's almost like F. Murray Abraham is redoing Salieri that he did back when he did Amadeus. So he's basically doing Salieri, but with this poor kid being Amadeus. And eventually, the African American kid runs afoul of Sean Connery's character, and they strike up a friendship. And Sean Connery sort of helps mold his writing. And at the same time, because he was a shut-in and stuff like that, the black actor is able to get Sean Connery out of his house and get around to go see a baseball game and do sort of just stuff to just get out back into the world and do stuff. It's a nice film. My wife really liked it again, but it's a drama. Not a lot goes on with it, and really, F. Murray Abraham is really just reprising his role as Salieri. He still does a good job of it, and Sean Connery does Sean Connery stuff. He's great, and everyone's good in the movie. So, and it's fun to also to have a very smart black person or African American person, because they are smart. Also, there are smart African American people out there. Let me just I gotta give the actor his props. He's not a truly famous actor. That might have been like his only movie that he did. Rob Brown was the character. So Sean Connery, Rob Brown, F. Murray Abraham, Anna Paquin, Busta Rhymes. Oh, Matt Damon was in it. He had a cameo. That's right, and stuff like that. So he did have a little sequence in there. I forgot about that. But yeah, so that is number 12. Number 11, despite having two actors who now are straight up MAGA, insane people, this movie is actually really, really good. It's number 11 is Frequency, another great concept from director Gregory Holbert, who did Fallen, which is a really fantastic one, and Primal Fear, which is another really good film. So Frequency is the middle film between Primal Fear and Fallen. And it's actually really, really good. Again, unfortunately, you have Jim Caviezel and Dennis Quaid in the cast, and they are straight up MAGA people. And Andre Braugher's in it as well, so that's the bonus to go watch it, because it's a great concept. Also, Jim Caviezel plays a police officer in I guess what was it 1999, because it's set in 1999. Plays a police officer in 1999 whose mother was killed by a serial killer, and his dad, I forget, something happened to his dad. He died in the line of duty, or he died of old age or something like that. Once his mother was murdered by the serial killer, their relationship soured, and he went on to become a police officer, which was his father is a fireman. So firemen and police officers don't like each other. Andre Braugher plays his commanding officer. So, but he's a pretty decent detective. No, it's because his father was still alive. That was the setup for everything. His father dies in 1999. He's been estranged from his dad for a while. His father dies in 1999, so he has to. He's the only remaining member of the family left alive, so he's got to go and do all the wrapping up of his dad's life. Go through his house and pay his debts and stuff like that. And he discovers his dad's old ham radio. Remember that his dad absolutely loved ham radio. And he kind of enjoyed it for a while until he broke with his dad, and then just sort of got away from it. But he still has that interest in it. So he decides, while he's cleaning up the house, stuff like that, he's going to try to fix the ham radio or listen to it. During this period, there is a massive electrical storm that had not been seen for 30 years. There's a similar storm that happened around the same time back in 1969. And somehow, when he was fixing the radio and the electrical storm happened, it sent a charge to the ham radio, which was able to send a message back to the 1969 ham radio. And Jim Caviezel's able to talk to his dad from 30 years ago, played by Dennis Quaid. So they don't realize who they are at first, but then eventually they discover, actually using the Orioles-Mets World Series game, which is the background of the film is that game, which is really interesting. Also, that World Series. So that's kind of interesting. That's the one the Orioles were expected to just blow through the Mets, and they end up getting beaten by the Mets. Jim Caviezel, being the police officer, realizes that his mother's murder was never solved. They never caught the serial killer. And now he's got a connection to 30 years in the past to his dad. And since he knows what's happening and knows sort of this situation, he asks his dad, "You're going to need to investigate this for me so we can save mom." And so Dennis Quaid, unwillingly, but I mean, he does it because he wants to save his wife, but he ends up having to investigate this crime, where he begins, because he's so close to it, people start to suspect him as being the serial killer. So, and sort of doing stuff like, you find a clue, Dennis Quaid finds a clue in 1969, wrap it up in like plastic or whatever, and hide it like in the floorboards of your house. And then fast forward to 1999, and he goes in there and he breaks open the spot where he put it, and there's the evidence that they can use to convict or find who the killer was. So something sort of similar to that. But again, Dennis Quaid's character is considered to be the serial killer, but then once the serial killer starts realizing that there's somebody that's tailing him, that puts a target on Dennis Quaid's character. So it just sort of becomes sort of this really cat and mouse sort of interesting movie that, again, it's a high concept. It's actually very entertaining. It's why it's number 11 on my list. Well worth check out, despite the fact that 2 of the 3 actors are MAGA assholes now. Get to our top 10. Top 10 is What Lies Beneath. This was like one of the last movies I saw before I met my wife. This came out in August, I believe. So it's in August. And it's an interesting thing. It's Robert Zemeckis. It's a horror film directed by Robert Zemeckis, starring Michelle Pfeiffer and Harrison Ford. And what's interesting about the movie is that Robert Zemeckis had been filming Castaway with Tom Hanks, and about a guy who ends up, as a castaway on an island. And they've already shot the first part of the movie where he is, Tom Hanks' character is healthy and stuff like that. And the second half of the movie takes place like 4 years later. So he's got to be gaunt, and having lived on a desert island, he can't be thin. He can't be fat and healthy. He has to be skinny and to grow his hair out and stuff like that. So Tom Hanks has to lose an immense amount of weight to give the appearance of someone who's been trapped on a island for 4 years. And so Zemeckis is like, okay, we have to suspend filming now for like 6 months as Tom takes the weight off and gets his hair to grow and stuff like that. So while Tom's doing that, Zemeckis is like, I'm bored. I've got all these people. We can't really just, stop production because no one's getting paid, and no one can really don't want anyone to really take another job because they might not finish in time before we need them to come back for Castaway. She said, you know what? Why don't I just make a movie then? I've got the time. I've got a script I'm interested in. It's a easy script. It's not high caliber. It's more of a human-driven horror film. And there's the special effects here and there, but nothing that is, killer. Let's make this movie while we wait for Tom to lose the weight. So What Lies Beneath is that film. Basic premise is Michelle Pfeiffer, her daughter is off to college, and she's either divorced from her husband or her husband's dead. I couldn't tell, the father of her daughter. And she remarried a professor played by Harrison Ford. So Michelle Pfeiffer has always been close with her daughter. Now her daughter's going away to college, so she's going to be an empty nester. And now she's just sort of stuck at home with Harrison Ford. And they're kind of looking forward to it, but at the same time, she's kind of anxious because she doesn't know anything other than being a mom. So she's trying to find herself again, and Harrison Ford is busy, but he tries to help out when he can here and there. And then Michelle Pfeiffer gets interested in a family that moves next door because it appears, from her view, she thinks that the husband has killed his wife and buried her in the backyard. And she has no proof of it other than she hasn't seen the wife in a long time, and they were violent toward each other, and he was out digging in the backyard in the rain at one time, kind of bloody, whatever. So she is thinking that he killed his wife, but there's no proof of it. Police went and investigated. He said she's away They did a cursory search around the area, didn't find anything unusual. So it was right around this time that weird things start happening at Michelle Pfeiffer's house. Weird writing appears on mirrors as stuff moves, stuff explodes, weird things start happening. And she begins to think that the ghost of this neighbor who was murdered is coming to contact her to try to solve her murder. Turns out that's not exactly what happens, and I'm not going to ruin it for you because the twist is huge in it. So it's a great atmospheric horror film. That's number 10 on my list. Robert Zemeckis at the top of his game, making a film in between making another film. Michelle Pfeiffer looking luminous and great. Harrison Ford playing kind of a different role than he's used to, which is really interesting to see as well. It's a low cost, kind of a nice atmospheric, another really good one to watch around spooky season. So look at right now, we've got Shadow the Vampire, Final Destination, Shadow the Vampire, The Gift, and now What Lies Beneath are all sort of great films to watch during spooky season. It should absolutely, you should absolutely do it. Number 9, people are probably going to yell at me about this, but to be honest, I think this is a hugely overrated film. And whenever I get around to doing my top overrated movies of all time, this will be on the list as well. But it's still good enough that it's cracked the top 10. And I like it enough to overtake What Lies Beneath, though I probably would have flipped it, to be honest. But number 9 is Gladiator. Russell Crowe, Ridley Scott, Joaquin Phoenix. Y'all know Gladiator. It was one of the biggest, highest grossing movies of all time. It's a great, on the surface, it's a great film, but it just is way overrated for me. Joaquin Phoenix is perfectly evil, is fantastic. Russell Crowe. Ridley Scott does a great job directing. I have it set during a period with Gladiator, stuff like that. I think Djimon Hounsou's in it as well. You get kind of a taste of what life is like during that period of time. Again, it's all great and fine. It's great. It's just, I think one of my major problems with it is that it is so overrated. Everybody absolutely loves it. I think it won Best Picture in 2000, overtaking the movie I thought should win Best Picture, which we'll talk about a little while later. I liked it, but it was not, I did not see it in the movie theater. I saw it when it came on Blu-ray and DVD. I did not jump into the hype of it. I do that I still do it to this day. I still do it. I saw Sinners because I saw how good that was this year, and everybody screaming how it's the best movie of the year. I liked it. I don't know if it's the best movie of the year. It was good, but I don't know if I'd call it the best movie of the year. And again, that could be a racial thing because it is a totally African-American sort of film. And then the new one that just came out now with Leonardo DiCaprio from Paul Thomas Anderson, everybody's now saying is the best movie of the year. The white people are now saying it's the best movie of the year. And I have no desire to see this movie. It does not look interesting to me. And it seems hugely overrated to me because I'm not interested in it. But that, again, that's just me. That's who I am. Would I like it if I watched it? Sure, maybe. Absolutely. But right now, I have no desire to see. It's one battle after another is what it is. I know I see it, but everybody's talking about how great it is and how it's going to compete with Sinners for the best movie of the year. I'm not exactly sure that's going to happen, So we'll see if that actually does happen. I need to get a bigger jersey. So Gladiator is fine. It is visually nice. You should see it. Have not seen the sequel because, as I said, didn't really like the first one. But it is number 9 on my list because it does have its moments. Joaquin Phoenix is absolutely evil. The special effects are really, really good, and it's an intriguing idea. But it's just something about it I was not a fan of, and that's why it's number 9 on my list. Number 8 is one. This everyone's like, yeah, sure, this movie is better than Gladiator. To me, it is. Number 8 is Return to Me. It's David Duchovny, Minnie Driver, Jim Belushi, and I got to get this right because I love this actress, and she directed it as well as co-starred in it as well. Bonnie Hunt, yep. Minnie Driver, Bonnie Hunt, Dave Duchovny, Carol O'Connor, Jim Belushi, Robert Loggia, Jolie Richardson, David Alan Grier, Eddie Jones. Yeah, it's a great film. Dick Cusack, who is a Chicago person, filmed in Chicago, with a great cast, and Bonnie Hunt directed it and co-stars in it. I love Bonnie Hunt. And it is a romantic comedy / drama. Dave Duchovny plays an architect, and his partner is David Alan Grier. And he and his wife are he's busy working on a zoo expansion. His wife works at the zoo that he's expanding. He has to stay late working on the zoo project before he does this award he's getting ready to pick up for being architect of the year or something like that. So his wife says, "I'm going to go get dressed because this is your special night. I want to look beautiful for my husband. And what you're building for my animals is great, and I love you so much. You're my husband, and I want to look good for you at your award ceremony." So she goes home to get ready to go to the this event. And they drove separately, and they drive to the event separately. They do the event, and then they drive back separately. And his wife gets to a car accident and dies. And just David Duchovny, once he learns she's dead and leaves the hospital and goes back home, they don't have any kids. And he goes to his dog, and he just absolutely collapses from just the pain of loss and the grief he has. Is a phenomenal sequence that Bonnie Hunt set up perfectly and performed extraordinarily perfectly by David Duchovny, showing actual grief. And Bonnie Hunt's character is like his ex-wife's best friend, sort of thing. So she's connected to that as well. And she's married to Jim Belushi, who's a police officer, I believe. And they have like 20 kids. And that's just a funny little aspect about things as well. Jim Belushi is really good at the role that he plays in that. And it takes place in Chicago, so like that. So you fast forward a year, 2 years, something like that. He's still working on the zoo. And his wife has a really good relationship with one of the gorillas there. And David Duchovny's had to explain to the gorilla what happened, and the gorilla has grief as well. So the two of them sort of hang out together in a nice way, not in a stupid movie way, in a really nice sort of way. So we fast forward about a year or two or whatever, and his partner, David Alan Grier, says, "Dude, you've got to get back out there. It's depressing seeing you not dating and getting back out into the world and just suffering in your own, And it's like, look, I know it's a terrible thing that happened, but you need to sort of move on with your life." And so he agrees to go on a blind date with his partner, David Alan Grier, to this really nice restaurant. Now, working at this restaurant is a waitress played by Minnie Driver. And we learned at the beginning of the film that she has major health issues, and she's hospitalized at the beginning of the movie. And she's waiting on a heart transplant because she doesn't have one. She's going to die. She does get a heart, and she recovers. And, a year or so passes after she gets recovered. So she's working at this restaurant. And the minute that she attends the table with David Duchovny, his blind date, David Alan Grier, David Duchovny has an instant smittenness with her. And it helps that his blind date is just a total bitch to Minnie Driver, which David Duchovny detests, thinks is an awful way to act stuff. So he tries to go to apologize to Minnie Driver and talks to her a little bit. And he ends up, figuring out a way that he's got to leave and stuff like that. Leaves the place high and dry, but he leaves his wallet there. Doesn't realize he leaves his wallet till he comes back to the restaurant after it's closed, and he sees Minnie Driver is still there. And so she invites him in, and he gets his wallet, but then he hears noise in the background, and it's a bunch of old people, including her grandfather, played by Carol O'Connor, I think, who runs the restaurant that they were in. And he has a card game with his old buddies, Eddie Jones, Robert Loggia, and there's one other one I think I'm missing also. Maybe Dick Cusack, it might be actually. So that's the thing. So he comes back up, and hangs out and starts playing cards with them, and they, it's a bonding moment. And then he ends up, asking Minnie Driver out, and so they decide to go on a date, and then things are progressing. He introduces her to his friends, and just everything seems to be going perfectly. When Minnie Driver discovers that her heart transplant is the heart of David Duchovny's wife, who was killed in a car accident, because she was a donor. And when she finds that out, David Duchovny has no idea, but she finds it out, and it makes things very awkward. And eventually, in romantic comedy fashion, she tells him it doesn't go too well, and then she says, okay, I'm going to go off to Italy to study art, because she's an artist. And her grandfather and the old people there, they convince him, you need to go after her. And he goes to Italy and finds her, and they live happily ever after. Amen. That's the end. But it's a sweet, nice romantic comedy, funny, not overtly sexual, has some moments of drama in it, and Bonnie Hunt just handles it so well, and it's just a great cast, and it's a really neat idea. And The Return of Beast, number 8. Number 7 is Scream 3, which was supposed to be the end of the saga. People weren't the biggest fan of it because Kevin Williamson did not write it. Aaron Cougar did, but what's his face? Came back to direct it again. Wes Craven came back and directed it again. I liked Scream 3. I liked the ending. I liked how they changed up the who the killer was. Spoiler alert, the first 2 movies have 2 killers. Spoiler alert, but you should know that by now. The third one, spoiler alert, only has 1, though rumor has it that there was supposed to be a second one, but due to the rewriting of the script, stuff like that, it was reduced down to just 1 killer. And the depressing sight of Jamie Kennedy's character, who was murdered in the second movie, releasing a videotape of him talking about knowing that there'll probably be a third Scream attack on Sydney, and these are the rules that she's got to live by to survive it. And it's heartbreaking when he realizes the last line is like, I hope you never see this. I hope I haven't died or whatever. And it's just heartbreaking. I think Heather Matarazzo plays his sister, or is it it's not Heather Matarazzo. It's the woman who plays Hawkeye's wife, I think. Linda Calderino, I think, is the plays his sister. Or it could be Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, David Arquette, Parker Posey, Scott Foley, Patrick Dempsey, Heather Matarazzo it is, okay. Carrie Fisher, Liev Schreiber, Jenny McCarthy, Lance Henriksen, Kelly Rutherford, Emily Mortimer, Patrick Warburton, Dion Richmond, Kevin Smith makes an appearance in there. Jamie Kennedy makes a quick appearance instead also. Jason Mewes also makes an appearance. So a decent cast. And I enjoyed Scream 3. Obviously not as good as the first one. Second one was okay. I think I liked the third one a little bit better because it was a little bit different. I wasn't sure about Patrick Dempsey being the love interest for Neve Campbell because he's a lot older than her. That seemed a little off-putting, and just the storyline itself is intriguing and an interesting capper to things and how everything is together and stuff like that. It was decent. It's a good trilogy. I haven't watched any other Scream ones since then. I haven't seen 4, 5, or 6 yet. I plan to rectify that during spooky season because I've heard number 4 is actually pretty decent. But because I want to prepare for number 7, which I really do want to see, which comes out next February in the movie theaters. Number 6 is the Coen Brothers with one of their idiot comedies that George Clooney himself called this series of films. Number 6 is Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? This movie was so crazy that it takes place during like the Great Depression in the South. It's about 3 chain gang criminals who escape from prison and have to find their way back to find the treasure that George Clooney has hidden from their last, or not the treasure, the money that he has hidden from their last their last gig, and it's basically a modern for that time updating of the Odyssey, and a lot of stuff happens with the Odyssey. But one of the things is that in order to hide out, they become musical legends overnight, and it's an old school Southern sort of man of constant sorrow. It's just an old Southern sort of song. Became a huge hit in the Billboard charts and won, I think, best song in the Academy Awards. And it has George Clooney, John Leguizamo, John Goodman, Holly Hunter, Stephen Root, the guy who played, I can't think of his name, the guy who played the leader in Captain America, Brave New World from this year, is in it also. And takes place in the Deep South, like the 1930s, 1920s sort of aspect during the Depression. Just a real kind of goofy Coen Brothers-esque sort of film that has an edge to it and is also kind of a modern updating of the Odyssey. It's fun. It's interesting. I've seen it a couple times. And it's just George Clooney playing absolute moron is hilarious. Holly Hunter playing kind of I did not like her character all that much, kind of a pissy little ex-wife of George Clooney's character. But still great cast. Good movie. Coen Brothers, do it again. Number 5, M. Night Shyamalan's follow-up to The Sixth Sense. Did not hit as well as The Sixth Sense did, but did well enough that it still made him considered to be one of the best filmmakers of our time with his sophomore film, Unbreakable, which in the end turned out to be more of a superhero origin story. Has Bruce Willis returning, working with M. Night Shyamalan for a second time, and Samuel L. Jackson and Bruce Willis reteaming again for the first time. They worked together in Pulp Fiction and Die Hard with a Vengeance. This is like the third time they've worked together, but in completely different ways. Bruce Willis basically plays a guy who survives a train crash where everybody else died. He's the only one who survived. And Samuel L. Jackson is a guy named Mr. Glass who suffers from a rare bone disease where his bones are brittle, but he's also a owner of a comic book store, and he believes that there are real superheroes out there. So after reading up and following up on the history of Bruce Willis's character, he goes to Bruce Willis and says, "You're a superhero. You have superpowers, and I want you to help help people, And he said, I've been looking for you forever." Bruce Willis doesn't believe this guy, but he comes back, he brings the receipts. He's like, "You survived this, 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 and this. When everybody else died, you survived it without a scratch on you. The only time that you had a little bit of issue is when you were drowning. So it's potentially maybe that water is your only weakness," which is interesting. And, there's other stuff about you where you have premonitions and stuff like that. We got to figure it out. So Bruce Willis discovers he actually does have superpowers where he can, if someone touches him, he can figure out what they're doing, or he can read their minds and see what they've done and tell if they're good or bad, sort of thing. It's a great film. It's definitely one I saw with my wife also. It's darker than The Sixth Sense. Probably not as entertaining as The Sixth Sense, but as a comic book person, I thought it was great. The twist in this one, I like it a lot. And I hate the fact that, M. Night keeps getting called the twist master. This one is, it's not as big of a twist as The Sixth Sense, but it makes sense within the concept of the story and actually is pretty decent. And eventually they made a couple extra follow-ups to it as well, which did not get as well received as well. But Unbreakable is number 5. Number 4 is The Replacements. I saw this in the movie theater. It is a football comedy, typical sports comedy genre, where a team made up of losers or whatever fight against their difficulties and become good at their sport, sort of thing. Filmed in Baltimore. When I was working at the radio station, we did a promotion where people were auditioning to be extras. So I saw the directors and the writers and the producers, and they were seeing all these people who were auditioning, and I just happened to be there at the event where they were auditioning everybody. Stars Keanu Reeves and his actual, this is the first film I think that came out. The Gift came out in the fall. This came out in late summer. So this is the first film after The Matrix that Keanu was in. And as I said, he plays Shane Falco, a star college quarterback who looked like he was going to have a huge career in the NFL, but blew the national championship Sugar Bowl game and lost his faith in himself and lost the cred. NFL didn't draft him, so he ended up just becoming his own businessman. He scrapes barnacles off of other people's boats, and he lives on a boat also. Filmed in Baltimore, as I said, but supposed to take place in Washington, D.C. Gene Hackman plays a grizzled old coach who was an NFL coach for the owner of the Washington Senators, I guess, the Generals. It was their football team that is the basis of the story. And the owner is the owner was in While You Were Sleeping. This is killing me. I'm gonna get it because there's lots of good cast members in it. Jack Warden is the owner. That's right. So basically what's happening is the film is sort of telling the story of when the NFL went on strike in the 90s, and the Washington Redskins back in 91, they fielded a team of replacement players who weren't in the union, and they end up going on this streak, and they end up winning the Super Bowl that year behind these replacement players. So they decided to do something similar to that. So there was a strike in the NFL football, so they need to keep football playing. So the owners got together and said they're going to do replacement players, scabs, as the union people called them. And they hired Gene Hackman, who hadn't coached for this owner in a while, but is now giving him carte blanche to be the coach to these handful of people who have a little bit of NFL football stuff, but aren't NFL caliber. He's supposed to whip them into shape as being an NFL caliber team. And so he says, you got to let me choose the people. And so he's gone down a list, and he finds all these people, and he finds all these diamonds in the rough. He finds a deaf wide receiver. He finds two twin brother linemen who, when they're separated, they play terrible. When they're together, they're a humongous tandem. There's a guy who was a sumo wrestler, who is another defensive guy who is a big body to block stuff. There is a Welsh football player who's been having some gambling problems, and he uses his massive leg to be their kicker. And then you have a wide receiver who has skills, but he's in prison for assault, so he can't play. So they make up a name and make up his, so they get him out of the field also. They have a former all-pro college, all-American college student who left to be a religious guy come in, and he plays as well. And you just have this, and then you've got sort of this guy that is fast but doesn't have good hands. He's fast, and when he catches it, you can't stop him. So he's got all these different parts, and then he brings Keanu Reeves in as well, and he's got to build this team into a team. Meanwhile, the cheerleaders are also going through replacement cheerleaders, so the cheerleaders hire strippers to make the stuff there, and it makes football fun. Meanwhile, the teams, the NFL pros who are on strike are the villains in this, who are, to be fair, are kind of right, because you don't want these scabs. They're trying to make a statement to management that they're not being treated well enough, and to have these scabs come in and play football when they should be helping them make more money so the pros can play, that sort of thing. So you get a little bit of that. But listen to this cat, and then you have a police officer who's absolutely just a dogged guy who's absolutely violent, has been busted a few times for overexerting himself, coming in there as well. So you've got Keanu Reeves, Gene Hackman, Brooke Langton, Jon Favreau, Rhys Ifans, Orlando Jones, David Denman, Ace Yanamine, Michael Taliaferro, Faison Love, Michael Jace, Jack Warden, John Madden, Brett Cullen, Troy Wibosh, Gaylord Sartain, Art LaFleur, Sarah Ann Morris, Pat Summerall, Keith David, Kevin Reed. That's about it, really. Old Dirty Bastards in it. Chad Stahelski, who is a director of the John Wick movies, was probably Keanu's stuntman for a lot of the football stuff. Who played David Denman was the guy who, no, is the deaf guy who played the villain. Let's see if I can find his face. Brett Cullen was the villain. That's right. All right, so there's your cast, and as I said, it's a brilliant movie. It's fun, but again, it's your typical sports comedy, underdog does well sort of thing. But it's just a fun movie. Everyone seems to be having a blast in it, and I can't really say much more about it. It's so great. One side note is that the Baltimore Ravens, whose stadium they use for the majority of the shoot, as well as around the streets of Baltimore and some in Washington a little bit, but it's supposed to be Washington, but Baltimore plays Washington. The Baltimore Ravens actually tried out Keanu Reeves at quarterback to see it, because the way he was playing, he actually looked pretty good. And it wasn't all done with camera tricks. He actually could throw the ball, and he tried out for him, but didn't quite work out. But they were thinking about signing him to the practice squad to see if he would do it. But that's kind of interesting. Number 3, I think honestly should be up higher. This is I've talked about this movie many times before. I saw this movie with my wife. I saw it. It was a movie premiere that I did as well with it too. And when I first saw it, I absolutely despised it. I hated it. My wife hated it, but it made a shit ton of money, and it's gorgeously shot by Ron Howard. And then fast forward a year to the next holiday season around Christmas time. I'm doing a promotion for the radio station in like a Best Buy or a Costco or something like that. And up on the TV screens, this movie had finally been released almost a year later on a Blu-ray and DVD and was being played nonstop during the holiday season. And standing around doing that event, I started watching it more. I was like, you know what? This is kind of entertaining film if you let it go. So I had bought a copy of it, and I watched it in the sanctity of my own house and realized I kind of like this movie. And I watched it again and again and again, and has now become a Christmas staple. Number 3 is the live action How the Grinch Stole Christmas movie. Jim Carrey, Ron Howard directed. Another outstanding cast. They're all of them are sort of. I got to give them props though, because the cast is phenomenal. I think I'll go to Wikipedia instead. Okay. And what I liked about it was it. The story itself is. I read How the Grinch Stole Christmas to my kids every Christmas. Even now when they're 18 and 16 years old, they still like me to read it to them before we go to bed on Christmas Eve. So I still read it to them. I have my Grinch voice, which I can't do right now because I'm parroting Jim Carrey's voice. So I have to watch it again to try to do it. I'm trying to do it now, but it's not great. I need to watch it again to get the cadence down again. But Jim Carrey is fantastic as it. Josh Ryan Evans plays the younger Grinch, who passed away in 2002. Taylor Momsen, Jeffrey Tambor, Christine Baranski, Bill Irwin, Molly Shannon, Anthony Hopkins as the narrator, Clint Howard, Mindy Sterling, Jeremy Howard, TJ Dine, Jim Meskimen, Mary Stein, Deep Roy, Rance Howard, Vern Troyer, Bryce Howard. It was a family affair. And it's a gorgeously, the set design is outstandingly Dr. Seuss. The music by James Horner is phenomenal. The makeup is outstanding. And it's just, it's a great film. Yes, it's not what you expect. And a lot of people don't like the history that they added to the Grinch to make him explain why he hates Christmas. But I like the story idea. I think it's a neat idea. And Jim Carrey, yes, absolutely hams it up, but you kind of need that. And he breaks the fourth wall a number of times. It's such a great movie. And yeah, I can understand why people, when you first see it, you're like, this movie's terrible. It's nothing like I remember it. And that was the same feeling I had also. But then to see it a year later, a year removed from that, at my own house, my own apartment with my wife, bought my own money, I loved it. And as I said, I kept watching it over and over and over again. So now I tend to try to watch it at least once a year. Doesn't always work out that way, but I tend to always watch it. And when I happen to be flipping around the TV, which I don't do often, but it pops on to ABC Family or something like that, I'll watch it. It's such a great movie. I love it. I want to get the 4K version of it. That's one of my dreams. So maybe I'll get that for Christmas myself. But it's a wonderful film. It's a lot better than you give it a chance. If you just ignore the hamminess, ignore the stuff you don't like with the storyline. It is a gorgeously shot film, great music. It is absolutely silly, as it should be. It's a Dr. Seuss type of film. It absolutely deserves to be looked at it in that way. So definitely, you guys should definitely check it out. I will be watching it probably again this year. Number 2, I put this at number 2 because this was really, yes, you could say Blade started the whole thing back in 97. You could say that, or 98. I think it was 98, actually. Back in 98, because the sequel didn't come out for like 3 or 4 years. But when this movie came out, it was the first battle attack of the comic book movies coming back. Yes, Blade was the one that brought people's attention back to it, but this one got their attention and held on to it. Number 2 is X-Men, the original X-Men movie. Hugh Jackman, Rebecca Romijn Stamos, Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, Anna Paquin, James Marsden, trying to remember, Halle Berry, and I'm trying to remember who else is in it. Bruce something. It was, yes, the X-Men are not wearing their comic coded costumes, but that's understandable. But it is your first look at Wolverine, your first look at Storm and Cyclops and Rogue, and Iceman even makes an appearance in there as well. And does Beast show up in that one? I don't remember if Beast shows up in that one. Kitty Pryde makes her first appearance, but she becomes a bigger part later in the series. But it's in it. Everyone wanted Patrick Stewart for Charles Xavier, and they got it. Halle Berry probably was not the best choice for Storm. Everyone thinks Angela Bassett, I agree with them, will be better, but that's pretty good. Rebecca Romijn Stamos, I think, played Mystique. She was good. I forget the actress who played Jean Grey, red-haired actress. I forget her name. James Marsden was fine as Cyclops. Hugh Jackman was perfect as Wolverine, except for his size. He's a little too big for me. Ian McKellen as Magneto. When I first heard that, I was like, that's ridiculous. But then he absolutely nailed it. So just a really good, decent film. A good comic book movie. The first salvo in the comic book wars. Yes, you could say Blade started this whole thing, but X-Men is more popular than Blade was. And then the next year, 2001, you get Spider-Man. So you start to see that trend happening. Then you get some more Superman, Batman movies, and then the MCU hits in like 2007, 2008. So 2008, actually. So this was the first shot across the bow. It's still a pretty decent movie. X-Men 2 is still the better X-Men movie, but this one is a decent starter film and good casting, and definitely worth your while to rewatch again. Finally, number 1, I already discussed it a little bit. I'm going to talk about my number 10, What Lies Beneath. Number 1 is Castaway. I saw this movie in the movie theaters, was doing a movie preview, saw it with my wife. Love this movie, my favorite movie of 2000. Robert Zemeckis killed it. Tom Hanks loved it. Helen Hunt in a supporting role was great, but this is Tom Hanks's movie. And it's a great No one's really done a Castaway sort of film before. There's bits where there's no dialogue going on. It's Tom Hanks trying to survive on the island, and just some of the gorgeous sunsets and the skies and the island itself and the trials and tribulations he goes through. And then, spoiler alert, he makes it back to land, and everything is different. Still has one of the best endings. I love it, where he doesn't know what he's going to do with his life. He comes to a crossroads in the middle of the desert, and he's looking, and it's a great shot. It's a shot from the side. So you see this one road going down that way, and you see the side profile of Tom Hanks as he's trying to figure out, should I go this way because there was a woman that he was interested in heading this way? Should I go back and start my life in a different location this way? Should I go back to my old life this way? What should I do? And it just ends with a perfect shot of him at this 4-way crossroads trying to figure out what I'm going to do, and it ends. So you never know what he decides to do. I like to think that he probably wanted human contact. So the woman that he met delivering the FedEx package, which you have to see for the movie to understand what that's all about, is probably the best option, to be honest. But yeah, so I think it was a great ending to it. Tom Hanks, spectacular in it. Robert Zemeckis did a great job directing. I think they got a bunch of Academy Award nominations. It didn't win. I don't think, maybe won a couple, maybe, but it didn't win anything, so it kind of pissed me off. It's still my favorite movie of 2000. Still trying to get my daughter to watch it. She hasn't shown really any real interest in watching it, and I kind of want to watch it again sometime. So this is another one that I definitely want to rewatch. It's been a few years since I've seen it, but I still love it. Still think it's my favorite one of the year. And that's my list. So that is it for the top 25 films of 2000. I still have a couple more lists I need to do for 2025, like top 15, top 10, top 40, stuff like that. So we'll see if I get to them over the next few months. But yeah, that is it. I am going to stop here. It's just about 3:00. Ravens playing about an hour and a half. I need to get something to eat inside me and take a look at the world and see how things are going. See, my team is going. Next week, as I said, tomorrow is the 25th anniversary of my wife and I's first date. October 1st rolls in on Wednesday. Our wedding anniversary is Saturday the 4th, which coincidentally enough, we were married on a Saturday. So it's kind of fun that we sort of have a convenient parallel there. So I'm going to end the stream here, and away we go. Thanks for watching.